Willem,
Hey?
have you ever had that moment, all right, when you're in a shower and all of a sudden the temperature does this 360 and there's that split second of denial and all of a sudden there's that zing, you know, like,
It's like, it's either it goes from like a lukewarm to ice cold or
Extremely
to
hot.
extremely hot. That's exactly, I've had that. And I can tell you, that's why I learned to dance.
Come on.
That's why I learned to dance, you know. That's where you get that sudden change in temperature in the hot water.
it's a
in the hot
total
cold water.
360. And I mean, which brings us into the exciting topic that we'll be touching on. So to all our viewers back at home, a warm welcome and welcome to another exciting and brand new episode of Plumbing 101. Nedzina langande Rendani Chivura, aka Randy, your number one MC.
I go by the name of Willem Klopper, and I am your co-host of this awesome show, just for you.
Come on.
Oh, so you mentioned it, that in this topic, in this episode, the subject of discussion will be what the risks that are associated with plumbing work that is not done correctly.
Yeah.
Or plumbing work that is not done according to the requirements of the applicable standards. And we can use the word dangers, but this is not an episode in which we want to scare people. This is not a scare tactic that we are using. We are merely raising facts about the fact that there are risks associated when your plumbing is done incorrectly.
100%.
And that's what we're going to discuss in this episode. Now, there's a lot of juicy details that we can share with you, but before we go into those juicy details, let's give our customers a break to quickly grab a cup of coffee, and then we'll be right back after that.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Plumbing 101. Now, before we went on to our ad break, we spoke about today's episode focusing on plumbers and consumers and the importance of hiring the right type of plumber, not the wrong plumber. And if you hire the wrong plumber, the devastating consequences that comes with that, you know, the risks associated with incorrect plumbing.
Randy, the fact is that there are many risks that we can speak of and that we can share with the consumers. But before we do that, I just want to reiterate to the consumers that this is not a scare episode. This is not an episode meant with the purpose to scare the consumers or to make the plumbing sector or the plumbing industry look bad, because, you know, there are measures that can be taken to prevent risks from occurring or to reduce or alleviate risk completely. So there are many risks, like I said before, and we're going to focus on 3 of them today. Now, in the first place, incorrect plumbing, or poor plumbing for that matter, can lead to Legionella, you know, building up and festing within your plumbing systems.
The Legionella bacteria.
Legionella.
What a powerful word.
Isn't it? It sounds like the Roman legions. The Roman legions sent out to the attack.
Yeah, but it's dangerous. Yeah.
It is dangerous. Right, so Legionella is a disease that's found in the lungs. Okay. It has your typical flu-like symptoms, and the fact is that it's not transferable from person to person. So the way that we get infected by Legionella is by, let's say, for example, breathing in mist, vapor of contaminated water. Okay. And yes, you did say that it can be dangerous. It is dangerous. It can be lethal, because studies and research show that, Legionella, when we say Legionella, Legionella bacteria is the thing that forms within your plumbing system, and we'll go into the depth of that just now. But having been infected with that bacteria can lead to Legionnaire's disease.
Okay.
And this disease is the one that can be fatal. It can be very dangerous because research has shown that the death rate for this specific disease is between 5 and 10%.
My goodness. All right. But now we've highlighted what the disease is. All right. But I want us to focus a bit on the causes, all right, of Legionella, because, you know, it's a bacteria, and I think our consumers that are watching right now want to know and want to go in depth with it, you know. But Legionella, the bacteria that's found in many waterways and damp places, and not just with cold water, but hot and cold water. It's not limited as well. And I mean, water storage tanks, water heaters, fountains, spray tanks, hot tubs, showers. What's the fancy word for a tap again?
A faucet.
Come on. Even a faucet, you know? And I mean, we're still talking causes, and plumbing systems that aren't properly configured, you know, can cause this as well. And water stagnation. I mean,
water stagnation,
not moving.
I think one of the biggest causes for Legionella to build up and fester within your plumbing system is stagnant water. I think that's one of the biggest causes. So yeah, if plumbing systems are not properly configured, it can lead to water being stagnant within those systems for extended period of time. And like you mentioned, stagnant water is one of the biggest causes for Legionella buildup.
Come on. And I mean, speaking of water, I mean, even the changes in the water temperature, you know, can cause this as well, which is quite interesting. Fluctuations within water temperature, you know, can actually lead into Legionella. This is a word I'm not going to forget, guys. I promise you. And I think you as the viewer back at home, you're being educated, all right? Legionella.
We are too.
We're starting to sound like industry experts, yeah?
Because we work with the industry experts.
100%.
We work in the PRB, we work with the professionals of the plumbing industry. And that's where we get this information from.
Yeah.
You know, they're the people who carry all the knowledge.
100%.
You know, we're talking about the fluctuations of temperature because Legionella thrives on that. You know, it thrives on the changes in the water.
Yes.
Right. And it's actually, you'll hear later in the discussion that certain temperatures can actually kill Legionella.
Okay.
So, and if temperatures drop and it stays like that for a long period of time and it's not hot enough to kill the bacteria, it can actually lead to that bacteria building up and contaminating your water.
Very interesting part. I realized also changes in municipal water, the quality. You see, so this is not just internal. It can come from an external party as well, which is quite interesting. We spoke about it.
Hence, I mentioned to our viewers out there that this is not a show to say that, hey, plumbing is such a scary thing. My life is at risk because of plumbing. Because this is not a plumber's mistake.
Yes.
You know, this is something that is caused by municipal water that can have contamination in it. That's an external factor. This can lead right into your plumbing system, your water, your potable drinking water. And this is not something that your plumber did wrong, right? But there are things that your plumber can do to help you to
100%. That's why you need
prevent
to
it.
use a trusted, registered, and licensed plumber. But still talking causes. I mean, the buildup of biofilm and sediment is also a cause of Legionella.
A big thing, you know, because if these things build up on the insides of your pipes, Legionella loves to go and feed off of those things, go and sit next to those things and build up on top of that and next to it. The more of these things that build up in your plumbing systems, the more the bigger the chances, the greater the probability of Legionella building up.
Now, we spoke about the causes, all right? And obviously, it's awareness. This is a reminder to you, the consumer back at home, all right? We spoke of causes, but let's speak about the people who are mostly at risk.
Basically, everyone who's exposed to poor plumbing. You know, we think about that only certain groups of people are at risk. Some are at greater risk than others. Now, those who are at greater risk of being infected and and affected by Legionella and Legionnaire's disease, typically smokers, because Yeah, really?
Smokers. Yes. Yeah.
Right, and the fact is just that the lungs have already been sort of weakened by the smoking, and they have deterred already, especially if the person has been smoking for many years.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, smokers have weaker lungs than the average other non-smoker.
Yes.
Therefore, they are at greater risks. People with diabetes, they're also at a greater risk when it comes to Legionnaires and Legionella bacteria. Then the elderly, people who, their immune systems have already, been, deteriorating over the years. Small children, young, small children are at greater risks. But again, comes down to the fact that basically anyone who is sort of subjected or exposed to poor plumbing systems and not having the correct preventative manners and not maintaining things. And then we'll get to that positive part. What were you saying offline before we started recording about the positive part? We've got to share that with our audience, right? Our viewers. Optimism, because there's always, every cloud has a silver lining.
I was trying to think about it. I was like, am I going to go gold or silver? But anyways, jumping back into it, since we're speaking optimism and the positivity, all right, let's talk about the solutions, all right? Because I think we emphasizing on awareness, but solutions. How do we move forward? How are we aware of this? What are the plans of action? What do consumers need to do?
So solution, yes, there are solutions to when you already have Legionella infestation within your plumbing system, and there's solutions to that. But let's talk about prevention, because let's rather, prevention is better than cure, right? So we can look at a solution, but let's look at the prevention thereof. In the first place, when you use a plumber within your premises, make sure that you use a properly qualified plumber, somebody who's not only qualified but a professional at that, and somebody who is, would take your health and safety, prioritize that. That is the first and foremost thing. Use a properly qualified, licensed, registered plumber for that matter. Plumbers must ensure that the temperature in the water system is correct, right? We did spoke about that fluctuating temperatures. Now, certain temperatures, I think it is anything from 55 degrees above, even 60 degrees Celsius, it actually kills that bacteria.
Guess how many people are adjusting their temperatures right now? Yeah.
And that's another thing that we're going to speak of a little bit later in the show.
Yeah.
But also, another thing that people can do is prevent stagnation by flushing their systems regularly. We did talk about stagnation being one of the main causes of Legionella buildup within your systems. Then also properly operate, maintain your systems and your equipments to prevent things like biofilm buildup. We did mention that Legionella likes to go and sit with the biofilm, and the buildup of organic sort of debris in your systems, and also corrosion, the buildup of corrosion that can also cause Legionella bacteria to fester. And if you regularly flush or maintain or operate your systems, that can actually be preventive. You can use water softeners because, like I mentioned, we mentioned the corrosion is not a rust. It means that your water also carries minerals within it, right? And those minerals can build up. It can form sediment. And like I said, when anything else builds up within your plumbing system, Legionella likes to go and build up with it. So use water softeners to prevent the buildup of. Yes, but listen, we can continue with a lot of other risks, and we can continue with those other two risks that we said we'll focus on in this episode. But I think let's just give our viewers a small break. A smoke break.
I see what you did there.
I think let's go into an ad break, and then we'll chat and continue with our discussion with our viewers just after that.
We'll be right back.
The PIRB Master Plumber Recognition Program has officially arrived. As an essential service to society, there must be constant growth and development within this important and ever-changing industry. Developed by the PIRB, the Master Plumber Recognition Program has launched as a new PIRB designation. allowing industry champions to take the lead. Skilled and experienced plumbers equipped to take the lead, enroll today to start your journey in becoming a recognized PIRB Master Plumber.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Plumbing 101. Now, today's engagement is quite powerful. All right, we did say it's all about the consumer as well as the plumber. And we're still discussing the risks associated with poor plumbing. I mean, incorrect plumbing can cause major things. And we talked about focusing on the 3 risks, and we've moved on to our second one, which is geyser explosions. Now, I know, Willem, you've got that example that we always speak about off air.
Off air.
Yeah.
When we're not recording, we always speak of this example. We can now go into the depth of a geyser physically exploding.
Come on.
Right? And that sounds heavy to the consumers, and it is a reality. It can happen. There's one other example. If plumbing isn't done correctly, if the plumbing doesn't work according to standards, a geyser is heavy.
Yeah.
It weighs in excess of 250 kilograms, depending on the amount of liters of water in it, right? The volume of water in it. So it's heavy. And if the structures within the roof, the trusses within the roof, aren't strong enough to carry that weight, if the plumber doesn't bear that in mind, because there are national standards, the SAN standards that specify to the plumbers, if the geyser weighs this much and carries this much weight of water, volume of water, this is how much weight the trusses should be able to carry. Those trusses can actually break. And we saw an example, a little bit earlier in this year, where one of our auditors shared photographs of a geyser that actually fell through the roof, through the ceiling.
Oh my goodness.
Fell on top of a living room couch that was in front of a TV.
Whoa.
And I always say, I have a small daughter, a young daughter, 5-year-old daughter. Imagine that your child, or anyone, not just a child,
250 kilograms.
metal
Oh
with it weighs 250 kilograms, but it's a metal structure with the wooden beams and the trusses falling out and all the other debris falling on top of you. That can be fatal.
Yeah.
But like you said, we are now moving on to that second danger. We call it danger, but a risk rather. Let's call it a risk that is associated with incorrect plumbing, and that is geysers that explode.
Yes.
Now, it can be a time bomb that sits in your roof and your ceiling, but if the correct things are in place and if it's done correctly, that's why we said this is not an episode to scare the consumer.
Yeah, awareness.
Definitely not. This is an awareness episode. Bear that in mind. We're just sharing with you things that you can be aware of. Right. Let's look at how this is even possible.
The causes.
How can the causes?
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for.
Yeah.
What causes a geyser to explode? Right. So a geyser is a pressurized vessel. Hot water expands. Right. And this geyser, your water heater, they call it in the plumbing terms. Right. It's an enclosed vessel. Right, so the water doesn't have if you don't open the tap, it doesn't have anywhere to go. It gets heated up, it expands when it gets heated up, it builds up pressure, and it's extreme pressure. Now, excess pressure is one of the biggest causes of geysers exploding. If it doesn't have anywhere to go, and if the correct safety measures are not put into place, we're looking at malfunctioning temperature pressure valves, or temperature pressure release valves, or control valves for that matter. They call it TP valves in the plumbing industry, or pressure relief valves, PRV valves, right? If those valves, they serve a purpose. We did say that earlier in the conversation, that they serve a purpose. If they malfunction or not function at all, they are your sort of last safety measures that are in place, that if something goes wrong and the pressure needs to escape somewhere through your plumbing system, then those are the things. If they are malfunctioning, that can lead to geyser explosion, right? Incorrect geyser installation in total, right? If a plumber didn't do the work according to what it should be, according to the requirements of national standards, that geyser can explode, right? We're looking at improperly regulated temperature, right? That can be caused by things like malfunctioning thermostats and incorrectly regulated solar panels that feeds heat to your, and translates to heat within your solar geysers. If it's not properly regulated, that excess pressure that builds up can cause it to explode. It boils down to the fact that there are safety measures that knowledgeable, experienced, properly qualified plumbers should and must put in place. And if those are not in place, they've been put in incorrectly, not according to standard, or they are malfunctioning for that, if they've been compromised, that can lead to a geyser exploding.
Quite interesting you say that. I'm sure you've been hearing me go, You know, I'm being educated in the most highest level today. And I want to take it back to our viewers back at home. You know, it's quite important that you do also take initiative to learn, you know, be aware of such, you know. But we have to emphasize that this is an educational program to make you aware of these dangers. But now, what are the signs to look out for when we talk about
again
these explosions?
These are things that the average consumer can look out for, but it is always the best to get a proper plumber in, the 100%. Expert, to get them in to come and have it and take a look at your things and see whether it is still fully functional, properly functional, and correct for that matter. But if we're looking for signs that the customer and the consumer can look for at their homes, if your pressure valve is leaking and you're starting to see wet spots near or close to your geyser, especially if you see it at the top of your ceiling where the geyser is located within your ceiling, that's the first sign. We're looking at for specifically gas heaters, because remember, gas is a highly flammable substance. And that can, if a gas heater leaks, it may not be as pressurized as an electric geyser, but if the gas is leaking, it can also lead to explosion because it is highly flammable.
But there must be also, when we talk about the gas section, you know, a sense element. You know, I'm sure if you're starting to smell something that's a bit out of place, like a rotten egg.
A rotten egg smell. That's what the gas will smell like, and that's one of the signs that if you've got a gas heater to look out for, right? And this all can be caused by plumbing that was done incorrectly. And remember, this is not a scare tactic, but it can have fatal consequences.
100%. And I think something that people should also be aware of. All right, if your geyser has got this strange humming and hissing sound, you know, it should tell you that something is malfunctioning. You know, it's also an alert, you know. And also you need to notice that water from geysers, you know, if it's not as hot as it used to be, there's just a change in the temperature. I think that's something that should alert you as a consumer to say, hey, look at this.
These are common sense and logic things. I always say, you know, there's one of our more technical gurus of the PRB, Mr. Richard Bailey, always says, you know, it's common sense and logic. If it doesn't sound right to you, and if it doesn't sound like it should be, ask yourself, should it sound like this? You know, should the water temperature be like this? And if it feels, and if your sixth sense and intuition tells you that it should not, and your logic and your common sense tells you should not,
100%, then it's probably not right. Just like if the water is brown, you know, as well as if your TP valve is always open. I think it's quite critical that people are aware of that as well.
Just one last thing to say to them: if the water is brown, that's a clear indication of rust forming within your geyser. And remember, you know, your geyser is made of metal. If it's rusting, and that corrosion, that rust can cause the metal to become thinner. Now remember, we did say that the geyser is a pressurized vessel, highly pressurized vessel. The thinner the metal, the less resistance it gives to that pressure. Right, so we're looking at what did you call it? The more positive side of things? The optimistic side of things. Again, just to put the consumer at ease, to know that there are measures to be put in place to ensure that your geyser is not a ticking bomb in your ceiling.
Solutions
or prevention. Preventive measures that can be put into place. Remember, prevention is better than cure. All right. So first of all, ensure that the temperature is set correctly. Right, and again, if you're as a consumer not sure how to set it, get the professional plumber in. get the expert in. Prevent sediment buildup, and that means flushing your geyser at least once a year. Randy, flush your geyser, then sediment will not build up in it.
Do remember that flushing a geyser and getting the sediment out is not done by simply opening up a couple of taps and draining the geyser. The geyser must be opened and the sediment removed by hand. It is quite an intricate process that should be done by a qualified professional.
Prevent the anode rod to rust. And that is the way you prevent it. You can't really prevent it. It will rust. It's made of metal, so it will rust.
Anodes, or better known as sacrificial anodes, are made of an alloy that is more susceptible to corrosion than the iron of the geyser itself, and therefore its purpose is to attract corrosion to itself. It is advisable to have the anode checked at least once a year and replace it completely if it is too corroded. If too corroded, it will malfunction and also leave sediment.
Right, so, and then also fit a drip tray. A drip tray is that, not the catalytic drip tray.
You know exactly what it's not the tray we serve teas and cookies, right?
Or the catalytic tray for that matter.
Yeah.
But insert a drip tray and make sure that there's a drip tray. It must be made of a specific type of plastic to be able to handle that excessive heat water. If the geyser bursts or if it explodes for that matter, or if it starts to leak, it will go into the drip tray. It has an overflow pipe that leads to the outside of the of the building,
just to release that liquid,
to get that hot water out. Right. So now always I refer back to the fact that you should consult with and use plumbers that are qualified,
yes,
preferably registered and licensed to do the specific work they do.
Come on. Now, I mean, we've covered 2 dangers already. We're moving into the third one. And I mean, to our consumers, we don't want to overwhelm you with information, but here it is, all right? Now, skin burns, quite a critical one. They're caused by scalding hot water, which is quite critical. People take it lightly. Now, the burns can be mild or even severe. You know, I mean, unbalanced water pressure in plumbing systems can cause sudden changes, you know, and that whole fluctuation can be problematic. And as a side note, if you switch your geyser to a solar heater, make sure it's fitted with a tempering valve. I think that's quite important, because an incorrect installation, I mean, of a solar geyser, or in this sense heater, can cause serious burn to your skin.
Absolutely. We did mention that in the beginning when we said that little dance in the shower.
And shake.
You know, that when your water isn't balanced within your plumbing system, the pressure isn't balanced for that matter. It can cause sudden changes. When you're in a shower, somebody opens up a tap in the kitchen, there's all of a sudden, now we spoke about it offline before we started recording. Imagine an elderly or a disabled person or a small 3-year-old child standing in the shower, 5-year-old child. They won't be able to react quick enough to get out of that scalding hot water. And that sudden change, and the longer that they are exposed to that hot water, trying to get away from it, the more damage and the more severe the burns.
Oh man. Oh, man.
And right, listen, so we can continue to speak about the burns on the skins and the severity or the mildness thereof and how it is caused. But I think that there is some more information that we can share with the audience and the viewers out there. But I think let's just go into an ad break. And when we come back from the ad break, we'll hop straight into the news.
Morning. I'm enjoying this beautiful sunny day out here in Rustenburg. Originally a plumber from Durban. My name is Nico Ramsarup. And my company is Nico's Construction and Plumbing Services, NCPS for short. We're out here in Rustenburg engaging with the PIRB and enjoying their roadshow. I'm a qualified plumber since 2009, and I've now been registered with the PIRB for 2 years. I just want to say that it's been a great experience and an eye-opener being part of the PIRB and learning better tactics, better skills. In order to train and develop my staff, I have 2 learner plumbers that are under me at the moment. And it's a great experience, and also just very happy to create awareness of the differences between qualified and licensed plumbers out on the field. And also that where our quality of work lies when it comes to the audit process. We have had our own fair share of challenges in the audit process with the PIRB, but in retrospect to everything, it's been positive feedback and just helping us to hone and refine our skills out in the industry. I just want to thank the PIRB for coming out and allowing me to converse with them and spend the day with them. Thank you very much.
Welcome to Plumbing 101 News with me, your host, Tobile. In the devastating wake of a flooded, ravaged KwaZulu-Natal, the National Department of Water and Sanitation has implemented an action plan consisting of 250 technical staff members to assist with the relief efforts. However, it would seem that many governing bodies have largely been met with the growing sense of outrage. Many Durban residents have pleaded with municipalities to prioritize repairs to a previously poorly maintained infrastructure. In an effort to assuage these concerns, eThekwini Municipality Mayor Mxolisi Kaunda had the following to say. Through Operation Good Hope, we plan to work on unblocking stormwater drains. Is it possible that the effects of the destructive natural disaster could have been less felt if proper systems were put in place? KwaZulu-Natal Premier Sihle Zikalala responded to these concerns by reminding us that we are only human. It reminded us that as human beings, we are mere mortals, and that our man-made scientific tools are sometimes not enough to forewarn and protect us. To date, with the help of the Department of Water and Sanitation, water supply to the inner and outer west regions of Durban have already improved by 60%. Water supply in the central and northern regions have been restored to 50 and 40%. However, eThekwini's southern region has sustained the worst damage with only 20% of water supply being operational. Zikalala and Kaunda have warned citizens to avoid building their homes near riverbanks. Zikalala goes on to say that this is the time to mobilize all South Africans to an enemy of pollution and environmental harm. Thank you for watching. Until next time, I'm signing out.
Welcome back. You're still tuned in to Plumbing 101. And I mean, we've reached that time where, it always saddens me where we have to conclude. But I mean, just a quick reflection on our engagement today, especially for you, the consumer, the viewer back at home. All right. It's quite important and essential that you use a trusted and qualified licensed plumber. All right. We've covered the 3 dangers that, can harm you or even take life. And it's quite critical that we actually, and I believe Willem highlighted this so well, just be proactive rather than reactive. Prevention is better than cure. But I have to say this to you as well, the consumer. Inform yourself, educate yourself around everything that affects you when it comes to plumbing. All right? Don't be ignorant and just trust, but also be informed so that you are aware of everything that could cause serious risk or death to you. But I do know this was an amazing show. And if you want to get into more details with the technical side of things, we've got our Professional Plumber podcast where Mr. Klopper is our host, of course, there. And I mean, totally significant, very informative, very powerful. Industry experts are there. So for more detail, for more information, also do tune in there.
That's correct. Absolutely correct, Randy, because in the Professional Plumber podcast, we discuss the finer technical details about all of the risks that we have spoken about now and about plumbing in general. And again, this episode was addressed to both the consumer and to the plumbers, because the plumbers out there should realize that the work that they do has a significant impact on the consumer. It can have a good impact if the work is done correctly. It can have a very bad impact if the work is not done correctly or according to the requirements of standards.
Yeah, but just a reminder, do make sure you touch base with us on our socials, of course. and make sure you subscribe, all right? So that you can always be updated with our shows. But to wrap things up, Zina Langande Rendani Shibura, aka Randy, your number one MC.
And I'm Willem Kloppe, your co-host of this awesome show, bringing information and knowledge to you.
Until we do it again, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. Yes, man.